Pluto in the ninth house of a natal chart is a profound indicator of a soul driven by an insatiable hunger for truth, not the superficial truth of facts and figures, but the visceral, underlying why of existence. In astrology, the ninth house is the realm of the higher mind, governing philosophy, religion, law, long-distance travel, and higher education. When Pluto, the planet of death, rebirth, and intense transformation, resides here, it turns the pursuit of wisdom into a matter of life and death. The architect of belief. For an individual with this placement, belief systems are rarely inherited or accepted at face value. There is an inherent skepticism toward dogma that hasn't been personally vetted through the fire of experience. You likely view the world through a lens of profound intensity, seeking to strip away the veneers of societal conditioning to find a universal core. This often leads to a crisis of faith at various points in life. You don't just have a philosophy, you are possessed by it. Pluto here demands that your worldview be authentic. If you find yourself following a path that feels hollow, Pluto will orchestrate a tower moment, a total collapse of your belief structure, forcing you to rebuild from the ashes. This can make you a powerful reformer or a radical thinker who challenges the status quo of academia or organized religion. The journey of the soul. Travel and higher education are not merely hobbies or career steps for you, they are catalysts for evolution. When you travel to a foreign land, you aren't just a tourist, you are a seeker looking for a piece of yourself in the other. You may find that you undergo a total personality shift when immersed in different cultures. The ninth house Pluto person often feels like a stranger in their homeland, finding their tribe or their truth in distant places or ancient esoteric studies. In the realm of education, you may have a complicated relationship with authority figures and professors. You possess a detective mind that can see through the flaws in a curriculum or the biases of an institution. While this makes you an incredible researcher and a piercing intellectual, it can also lead to power struggles within academic settings. The shadow side, zealotry and obsession. Every Plutonian placement carries a shadow, and in the ninth house, that shadow is intellectual or spiritual fanaticism. Because you feel your truth so deeply, there is a risk of becoming the crusader. You might feel a compulsive need to convert others to your way of thinking, convinced that your perspective is the only one that can save people. At its worst, this can manifest as a God complex or an obsession with being right. The challenge here is to realize that Pluto's power lies in your internal transformation, not in the control of others' minds. Learning to hold your convictions with a sense of detachment is the ultimate lesson of this placement. The Phoenix of Wisdom. Ultimately, Pluto in the ninth house produces a person who acts as a bridge between the mundane and the divine. You have the ability to take complex, dark, or hidden concepts and synthesize them into a philosophy that empowers others. You are the phoenix of the mind, constantly shedding old ideologies to make room for deeper, more inclusive realizations. By the second half of life, many with this placement become powerful mentors, lawyers, or spiritual guides. Your wisdom is hard-won, carved out of the moments where you had the courage to admit that everything you once believed was wrong. This humility, born of Plutonian destruction, is exactly what makes your eventual insights so transformative for the world around you. To delve deeper into Pluto in the ninth house, we must look at the psychological mechanics of how this placement operates over a lifetime. This is not just a placement of thinking, it is a placement of ideological alchemy. It turns the search for meaning into a relentless quest for power through knowledge, often leading to a life defined by radical shifts in perspective and an almost psychic connection to the collective unconscious. The power of the word and the law. In the ninth house, Pluto's influence extends into the realm of law and ethics. Individuals with this placement often have a piercing intuition regarding justice. You can sense when a system is corrupt or when the spirit of the law has been sacrificed for the letter of the law. This makes you a formidable advocate for social reform, but it also means you may experience significant power struggles with legal systems or bureaucratic institutions. You are driven to expose hypocrisy, and your life's work may involve tearing down outdated societal structures to make way for a more authentic moral code. The occult scholar and the deep researcher. While the ninth house typically governs traditional higher education, Pluto pulls the interest toward the esoteric, the hidden, and the taboo. You aren't likely to be satisfied with a surface-level degree in business or communications unless it allows you to investigate the underbelly of those fields. You are drawn to subjects like archetypal psychology, forensic science, ancient mysteries, or metaphysics. Your mind functions like an X-ray. When you study a subject, you don't just learn it, you excavate it. This can lead to a state of intellectual isolation, as you may find it difficult to engage in small talk or superficial debates. You want to discuss the soul, the end of the world, or the fundamental nature of reality, which can be intimidating to those who prefer the safety of conventional thought. The trauma of the truth. Pluto often brings a sense of loss before it brings empowerment. In the ninth house, this may manifest as a betrayal by a mentor, a religious figure, or an educational institution. You might have grown up in a strictly dogmatic environment that attempted to suppress your natural questioning, leading to a psychological death and subsequent rebirth as an independent thinker. This placement often indicates that your greatest wounds, and your greatest healing, occur through your beliefs. You may have to lose your faith entirely to find your spirituality. This process is painful but necessary. It ensures that when you finally stand on a platform to speak, your words carry the weight of someone who has survived the dark night of the soul. Global transformation and the foreign shadow. The ninth house governs foreign lands, and with Pluto here, there is often a karmic or transformative tie to cultures very different from your own. You may find yourself drawn to places that are intense or even dangerous, or you may move to a foreign country to escape a past version of yourself. In these foreign environments, you often encounter your own shadow. The people you meet and the cultures you immerse yourself in act as mirrors, reflecting back the parts of your psyche that you haven't yet integrated. These experiences are rarely vacations, they are pilgrimages that strip away your ego, leaving you with a more global, less provincial understanding of humanity. The evolution of the teacher. As you mature, the fanatic energy of Pluto usually evolves into the master. You learn that true power doesn't come from forcing others to see the truth, but from embodying the truth so fully that your presence alone acts as a catalyst for their change. You become a person who can sit in the darkness with others, helping them navigate their own crises of faith, because you have mapped that terrain yourself. Your legacy is not a set of rules or a specific religion, but a demonstration of how to live with an open, piercing mind in a world that is often afraid of the deep. You teach others how to die to their old selves and be reborn through the power of a higher, more crystalline vision. When Pluto transits your ninth house, you are entering a decades-long chapter of intellectual and spiritual demolition. Because Pluto moves so slowly, spending anywhere from 12 to 30 years in a single house, this transit does not represent a fleeting mood or a temporary interest. Instead, it is a slow-motion earthquake that permanently alters the landscape of your higher mind. The ninth house is the horizon line of the chart. It represents everything that lies beyond your immediate environment, foreign cultures, advanced philosophies, legal systems, and the concept of God or universal truth. When the Lord of the underworld crosses this threshold, the simple answers you've relied on since childhood begin to decay, making room for a far more complex and potent understanding of reality. The death of certainty. The hallmark of a Pluto ninth house transit is a crisis of faith. This doesn't necessarily mean losing a religion, though it often does. Rather, it is the death of certainty. You may find that the political ideologies, social ethics, or spiritual frameworks that once gave your life structure now feel hollow, hypocritical, or insufficient. Pluto acts like a cosmic detective. It enters the ninth house to investigate the why behind your beliefs. If you believe something simply because you were told to, or because it makes you feel safe, Pluto will likely orchestrate events that prove that belief wrong. This can be a terrifying period of meaninglessness, where the universe feels cold and chaotic. However, the goal of this destruction is not to leave you empty, but to force you to find a truth that is actually robust enough to survive a crisis. Pilgrimages and power struggles. During this transit, travel and education shift from being fun or career-oriented to being transformative and intense. You might find yourself drawn to Plutonian locations, places with deep history, sites of ancient power, or countries undergoing their own radical transformations. A trip during this time is rarely a vacation, it is a pilgrimage that strips away your provincial ego. You may encounter shadow versions of humanity abroad that force you to confront your own biases and fears. In the realm of academia or publishing, this transit often brings power struggles. You might find yourself at odds with a mentor, or you may feel a compulsive need to expose corruption within an educational or religious institution. You are no longer interested in learning for the sake of a degree, you are obsessed with the truth, and you will have little patience for those you perceive as intellectual phonies or gatekeepers. The metamorphosis of the worldview. As the transit progresses, you move from the destruction phase into the synthesis phase. This is where you begin to rebuild your worldview from the wreckage. People experiencing this transit often convert to entirely different ways of life, switching from hardcore rationalism to deep mysticism, or vice versa. You may also find your voice in publishing or public speaking. Pluto gives you the power to influence the collective mind. Your words take on a magnetic, almost hypnotic quality because they are backed by the weight of your personal transformation. You don't just share ideas, you transmit power. Navigating the transit. The danger of Pluto in the 9th is zealotry. In your rush to fill the vacuum left by your old beliefs, you might latch onto a new ideology with a desperate, fanatical grip. You might feel a divine mandate to convert everyone around you. The key to navigating this transit successfully is to remain the eternal student. If you can lean into the discomfort of not knowing, Pluto will eventually reward you with a perspective that is truly your own, a philosophy that isn't borrowed from a book or a parent, but forged in the fire of your own lived experience. By the time Pluto leaves this house, you will likely have a global consciousness, a piercing intellect, and a faith that is no longer a shield against the world, but a bridge into its deepest mysteries. Subscribe, like, and share.